Hello, and welcome to The Connection. This podcast is about understanding and building the connection we have with others and with ourselves. It is my hope that through this podcast, you will learn to have more joy and fulfillment in your life. I'm your host, Jared Hurst, and I just did my intro without reading it for the first time. How cool is that? That's exciting to me, okay? As a person, I'm always working to grow and develop myself. And I just did something new, and so I'm celebrating it. We're going to talk a little bit about that today. Now, last week, we talked about being uninhibited in our life. And we talked about how we build a foundation of our self-esteem, the foundation of our self-esteem, in every area of our life on ourselves first. That if we put any area of our life and build that foundation of our self-esteem on other people or other external sources, that it weakens our foundation and puts our self-esteem at risk. And over the course of talking with you about that, I talked with you a little bit about beliefs. And I've talked with you about beliefs and identity many times on this podcast. But there's some things that I want to share with you that I feel that have come into my life recently and made a big difference. I've finally recognized what I've been doing and why it's making a big difference. Now, a negative belief, if I'm going to really simplify it for you, and this is something I realized within the last couple of weeks, this new way of looking at this. So hopefully this simplification helps you understand it better. A negative belief is simply a bad thought habit. You've created a habit out of a way of thinking, and that way of thinking does not serve you. You all know what a bad habit is. Now, what's a bad habit to one person is not always a bad habit to somebody else, right? Just because somebody thinks something is a bad habit doesn't mean that it is for that other person. You have to decide what is serving you and the life that you want to live, and what is not serving you and the life that you want to live. So, what we're going to do is we're going to talk today a little bit about how you can rewrite those habits and turn those bad habits of thought into good habits of thought, ones that serve you and the life that you desire to have. Okay? Now, first off, before I get into that, I want you to become aware of something that I've realized, and that is that these bad thought habits can spawn other bad thought habits. They infect other thoughts without us even realizing it. And if you think about it on a logical, intellectual level, it makes a ton of sense. So I'll give you examples from my life, not because I love sharing all of the negative beliefs that I've had over the course of my life, but because I feel you get a week in and week out, you get a feel for what I've dealt with. It makes it really easy for us to jump into conversations with each other. I guess it's more of a one-sided conversation, but you get what I mean. All right. So you know that I've had issues around abandonment. Now, if you've listened, I've also had issues around feeling that I'm not enough, feeling that I'm too much for people, feeling that there's something about me that's undesirable, having issues around rejection, having issues around my level of attractiveness. And if you think about them, they're all related to each other. If I believe that something about me is undesirable, then it's really easy for me to have something happen in my life and say, oh, I'm too much for people. Not only am I undesirable in some way, but if they see all of me, then I'm too much, and then I push people away. And if I'm undesirable in some way, and I push other people away, then it's really easy to make the correlation and say, oh, I'm not that attractive. The reason that this person is rejecting me is because I'm undesirable, because I'm too much, and I'm also being rejected because I'm not attractive. It's really easy for your mind to make a correlation and say, well, if this is true, then this must also be true. Does that make sense? I mean, it makes a lot of logical sense to me. So you may look into your life. The reason I'm bringing this up is a lot of the times I've looked at each one of those beliefs as their own individual belief, and they are individual beliefs. But what I didn't realize is how they were all interconnected with each other. And how when I start dealing with the ones at the top, like the really deep core belief, and then working my way forward, sometimes if I just deal with those issues of feeling undesirable and too much, then all of a sudden the stuff below it resolves itself. So if you can find a core wound, a core belief system that is not serving you, sometimes you can resolve other belief systems through the process of resolving that. And I also think it's important that when you recognize they're all connected, working on them all at the same time will make it more powerful and easier for you to make massive changes. Because I've had times in my life where I feel like I've just dealt with one, and then because I wasn't dealing with the others, it wasn't as effective as it would have been. Okay? And that kind of brings me to this idea of looking at these things as though they're a disease. If I'm only dealing with one part of the disease and I don't deal with all parts of it, then I'm just not going to be as effective with it. And the same thing is true with creating environments and recognizing how those environments both help us and hinder us. And what I mean by this is if you're dealing with cancer, and you go out and you start eating well, and you start exercising, and you start sleeping well, you're going to feel better. But is that cancer going to get resolved by those things? Probably not. Now, I'm going at this from a Western medicine philosophy. I know everybody has different philosophies on medicine. That's not what I'm trying to say. There's visualizations and all different things that we can jump into, but I'm just using this as an analogy, okay? If I don't directly deal with that cancer and all I do is create a good, happy environment around it, I'm going to feel better overall. But it's not addressing the underlying problem. And the same thing is true with your negative belief systems. In fact, the ways that you deal with it and create a good environment are the same things. Go get a good night's sleep consistently at the same time if you can. Go eat healthy. Go work out. Have good emotional regulation habits. Have good thought habits. All of those things are going to help you feel better. But you have to also address the belief system as well, directly. This is one of those things that I've definitely been guilty of. 2 years ago, I definitely understood that I had an issue around rejection. 6 years ago, I knew that I had an issue around rejection, but I really was focused on my issues around rejection 2 years ago. And because I've done so many other things to make my environment better with my thoughts and my emotions and all these habits I've developed, it was really easy to lose sight of how much of that negative belief still needed to be addressed because I was feeling good. And when I was having issues around rejection, I was handling them a lot better. I'm not saying I shouldn't have done all those other things, but I wasn't directly counteracting that belief system. And there's other belief systems which I need to work on. And so I had this realization that I have to attack it directly. So create a good environment and then attack it directly. So we'll use this old belief system that I used to have around not feeling attractive because I've gotten over that. I feel it's a really good one for me to go through. So how would I counteract this idea that I'm not attractive? Now, with something like that, it can be as direct as I'm not attractive, I am attractive. I literally just flip it and do the opposite. Now, you might have heard people talking about doing affirmations, and that's in essence what I'm doing. I am attractive. I am attractive. And I would say that to me. I'd say that to myself over and over and over again. And that helped because I was counteracting that thought directly, but I need to support it in other ways. And I'll dive into how you support it. But one of the ways that you support it is you do things that support it that are believable, or you find ways that you can help make it believable. If I truly believe that I'm not attractive, and then I just keep telling myself I am attractive, on some level, my mind is calling BS and saying whatever. That's not true. So what did I start doing? I started looking in the mirror every day and looked for ways in which I found myself attractive. And then because I was looking and finding ways in which I was attractive, which supported my new belief system, it was easier to believe that new belief system because I had evidence supporting it, right? And there's other areas in which I'm going to show you that sometimes when you're struggling changing a belief system, you can help look at it in a new way in order to help it feel more believable. But we'll dive into that in just a minute. Sometimes you also have to make that new belief system, you have to attack the old belief system indirectly by making a perception shift. We can't just do the opposite. It's not as simple as flipping it around and saying the opposite of what that old belief system is. Because sometimes the opposite is not something that is even possible. And I'll talk with you about that here in my example. But that's what we're going to do, is we're going to talk about counteracting that belief system, and I'm going to show you how you can support that. Here's the cool thing. Your belief system influences your thoughts, actions, and emotions. If I believe that I'm not attractive, and then I see this woman across the room that I'm interested in, what are my thoughts going to be? My thoughts are going to be, well, there's no point in talking to her because she won't be interested in me because I'm not attractive. And then what are my actions going to be? Well, if I even get up the nerve to go talk to her, I'm probably going to be nervous. I'm probably going to people please. I'm probably going to try and impress her. I'm going to do whatever I can because on one level, I don't believe that I deserve to be talking to her because I don't feel like I'm in her league, because I don't feel like I'm attractive. And so then my actions are going to be influenced. And then as soon as I think about talking to her, or I think about acting and going up, how am I going to feel? I'm going to feel down. I'm going to feel depressed. I'm going to feel like there's no point in my taking any action because I already feel like I've lost. So my thoughts, my actions, and my emotions are affected by my belief system. And guess what? You rewrite your belief system through your thoughts, your actions, and your emotions. Okay? So that's what we're going to do. We're going to talk about how you can create counter thoughts, counter actions, and counter emotions that help you rewrite and support that new belief. If your old belief creates negative thoughts, actions, and emotions, then I get a new belief that counters that old belief, and then I support it with the thoughts, actions, and emotions that correlate with it. And all of a sudden, I rewrite onto that new belief system because I'm supporting it with what I'm doing. And I have to do it consistently. Okay? All right. So, how are we going to do this? I'm going to talk with you about this idea, this struggle that I've had, which is the idea that there's something about me that's undesirable and that if people get to know all of me, that I'm gonna push them away because there's something about me that's too much. Okay? So, too much, I push people away. Something about me that's undesirable. So what does that do to my thoughts and actions? Well, it caused me to repress parts of me. It caused me not to show all of me. It caused me to be very cautious with how I interacted with new people and what parts of them I showed. And if you remember when I was talking about this last week, I went through a bit of a learning curve where all of a sudden I dumped everything on people. I started showing way too much and sharing way too much. And I've since learned over the last 3 weeks since I started doing this, how to keep things in balance, in moderation. Well, if you remember, I said that if we're going to change a belief system, we're going to change what we believe is a negative belief and we're going to change it into a positive one, that we need to find ways to make that new belief believable. One of the things that I've found is really helpful for me, and I think a lot of people are probably true about this, is that it's so much easier for me to have grace and love and compassion for people that are not me. So what I've done is I start by comparing things to other people. So I looked at other people that I've been around and I said, do they have things about them that are undesirable? Yes. Do they have things about them that push other people away? Yes. Does that mean that they are undesirable and that they push people away? No. So am I the one person in this universe that this concept doesn't apply to? No. So I equated it to somebody else and I said, all right, if my belief system is that there's something about me that's undesirable and that I push people away, and I know other people have those exact same qualities or something similar to it, and they don't push people away, and they're not undesirable, then it's also true for me. So that's how I learned to start changing that. At first, I said something about me is undesirable, and so the way I tried to counter that is by thinking about all the ways that I was desirable. But here's the thing. If you believe that there's something about you that's undesirable, and then you list all these things about you that are desirable, it doesn't counteract that because you don't know what the one undesirable thing is to attack. So I changed my perspective of how I looked at it and said, is it true that having something about you that's undesirable makes you undesirable? And it's like, no. So then I started looking at it and that was my new belief system. My new belief system was I can have flaws. I can have things about me that aren't desirable. I can have things about me that do push people other away, and that does not make me undesirable and does not mean that I push people away. And when I started to develop that belief system, then the way I related to myself started to completely change because I was directly attacking that old negative belief and I was doing it with a belief system that served me. Okay? So that's the belief that I developed. Now, how do I support it with my thoughts, my actions, and my emotions? Well, I kept thinking, I don't push people away, I accept my flaws, and I'm working to get better. So I kept saying, all right, well, what are my flaws? What are the things that I do that push people away or aren't desirable? Well, sometimes I'm way too loud. Sometimes I talk too stinking much. Sometimes I'm too analytical. Does that mean I'm flawed? No. Is that even a bad thing? Sometimes. Sometimes talking like crazy is a bad thing. Sometimes talking too loud is a bad thing. Sometimes talking analytically all the time is a bad thing. But are there times where talking analytically is positive? Yeah. Is there a time where talking loud is positive? Is there times where talking a lot is a positive? Yep. So the things that I have about me that immediately come to mind aren't even always a bad thing. So then it was, well, I just need to learn how to control these things. So not only are my thoughts, hey, I accept the things about me that are flawed, and I'm working to get better by learning how to moderate those things and use them in the proper way. I'm taking something that can be a weakness and I'm turning it into a strength by learning to have some control over it. Okay? So that's my thought. Then my action. Well, how do I show people that I'm not holding back on my desires? How do I show people that I don't feel like I'm too much? How do I show myself that I don't think I'm too much? How do I show myself that I don't believe that I'm undesirable? Well, I went out and I started talking with people. If I'm undesirable and I believe that I'm undesirable, would I go out and try and introduce myself to new people and show them who I am and openly celebrate who I am with those people? No. So that supported my new belief system of yes, I am desirable, and yes, I am just enough. And that when people get to know me, they will love me and accept me and want to have me in their life. So I'm going to go out and meet new people. I'm going to show them who I am. I'm not going to be ashamed of that thing. I'm going to act on the desires that I have. And so I'm doing these actions that support this new belief. And one of the things, like I said, is I had to learn how to moderate those things. There's times where I showed way too much of who I am. There's times that I showed way too many of my flaws and was way too open about my past and the things that I've struggled with. You don't dump your flaws on people. That's not showing that you are unashamed of who you are, that you're proud of who you are, to just dump everything on people, to give them everything that you are the second you meet them. That's going way too far the other direction. So it's finding this happy medium where you are showing yourself through your thoughts, through your actions, that your new belief system is valid, but without doing it with a lack of control. Then you also support that through your emotions. So what I would do is I'd go out and I'd talk with people and I would see new people and I would allow myself to step in and feel the enthusiasm that comes from talking with somebody new. I love connecting with people. And so I allowed myself to get excited about the fact that I'm talking with somebody new. And then another emotion I'm doing to support that is celebrate it. I get done and I pat myself on the back and I'm like, I literally will tell myself, and I'll literally pat myself on the back sometimes. I'll be like, Jared, I am so proud of you for going out and talking with that person today or doing this activity or whatever it was that I acted on. And I'll do things that I'm scared to do. I've had times where I've gone up and talked with somebody that I was attracted to, and it was scary. It was scary. But then I congratulated myself for it. I've gone up and I've talked with somebody that I just wanted to be friends with, that I was curious about their life. And then I congratulated myself for it. I had times where there was something I felt a little bit of embarrassment about myself. And I shared it because it was relevant in the moment with the person I was talking with. And then I celebrated that I did that I didn't hide the parts of me that I was ashamed of. I released that shame. And that's really what it is. There's different areas where you can do this. Really quickly, I'll tell you, you know that I've had issues around rejection. And so there's been times that I had to reframe what happens when a relationship ends and recognize that I'm not being rejected. So the new belief system I adopted to help myself with that is that when somebody says that they don't want to be in a relationship with me, they're letting me know that we're not the right fit. And that when I'm letting them know that I don't want to be in a relationship with them, I'm letting them know that I don't think we're the right fit. So it's not a rejection anymore. I have to watch my words. Don't say that I'm losing them. Don't say that they left me, because left me is abandonment, which I've dealt with. Losing them is pushing them away, which I've dealt with. Do you see how those two words are reinforcement of my negative belief system? So one of the actions I've done is I've changed the words that I've used. I've changed how often I talk about people that I'm no longer with, because I've realized that I have a problem with that. If I believe that when a relationship ends, that it's okay because we're just not the right fit, then why would I sit there and continue to talk about them all the time? If I believed that we just weren't the right fit, I would let it go and I'd move on. I would grieve, but then I would let it go and I would stop talking about them all the time and I would focus on the new people in front of me. The other action I would take is I would filter other people. If I believe that dating is simply me trying to find the right fit, then I should be actively screening the people that I'm dating, both before we meet and once we meet, to see if they are the right fit for me. Right? If that's my belief system, that's how I would act. So whatever it is that you're working on, think about it and say, well, what kind of thoughts would support the belief system that I'm trying to adopt? That belief system that counteracts this old belief system. What actions should I be taking that would show that I believe this new belief system? And what emotions or things can I do to help myself be open to emotion that is going to support that? Because as we talked the other week when we were talking about predictions, when you have strong emotions, it wires actions and thoughts deeper. So use your emotions to support these new beliefs that you're creating, and you will have more success healing these things and creating a life that you desire to have. I am so excited to hear what you think about this and how it's going to impact your life. Please message me if you try this and let me know where you've seen a difference. And if you have an area of your life that you want to change and you don't know how to change it, you don't know what kind of belief system would help you counteract this, and you don't know what thoughts and actions, by all means message me. I'm happy to help you. Also, just so you know, I am currently working on a coaching program and I'm going to be releasing that soon. I have people which I currently coach, but I want to expand that and have something new and exciting that I can share with people. So if that's something that you would be interested in, by all means message me and I'd be happy to put you on the wait list for when it's ready to go. I believe in you. I know you can do it. Until next week, remember that you are not alone.